Okay, so we've already heard quite a bit about these nifty neurons. One of the things we've learned is that there is not just one neuron, but rather a whole bunch of them. You'll learn exactly which ones by watching this video. So, there's not just one type of neuron. That would be much too boring anyway. The neuron we talked about in our last video is just your average neuron and doesn't really tell the entire story. That's why you guys can look forward to learning some new specialist terms. First off, different nerve cells can be distinguished by their neurite count. Neurite is another word for axon. Let's look at a picture, shall we? Here we have the unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar varieties. Unipolar means one axon, bipolar 2, and multipolar more than 2. We then have a fourth option. This nerve cell is neither one thing nor the other. It is pseudo-unipolar. A distinction can also be made between the various axon lengths. There are two options. First off, the Golgi-Type 1 neurons. These are so-called projection neurons with long axons. And then there's the Golgi-Type 2 neurons with local interneurons that have short axons. Then there's the classification by dendrites. In other words, what the cell's dendrite structure looks like. There are two varieties, star-shaped cells and pyramidal cells. The star-shaped cell looks like a star, and, wouldn't you know it, the pyramidal cell is shaped like a pyramid. Well, sort of, if you use your imagination a bit. Then you can take a look at whether the neuron has spiny extensions or not, or, to put it scientifically, whether they have spinous processes. These little dendrites look like thorns. Up next, we have the division by type of connection. There are sensory neurons that record signals from the periphery. In this case, the periphery means from the outside. So, for example, a stimulus on the hand which is transmitted towards the brain. Then there are motor neurons, or motoneurons. These efferent nerve cells innervate the muscles, or in other words, they direct signals towards the muscles. The inner neurons are the neurons that are located between these two neurons. The final classification is by neurotransmitters. The different categories are cholinergic neurons and GABAergic neurons, also called glutamatergic neurons. GABA is short for gamma-aminobutyric acid. These nerve cells use GABA, or glutamate, as messenger substances. The cells that heat using acetylcholine can also be found at the neuromuscular end plate, or rather, where the stimulus is transmitted onto the muscle. All cells that use GABA transmit inhibitory signals, and glutamate is excitatory. They both have an important function in the brain. The last thing you guys should definitely know about are the Purkinje cells, simply because they look really cool. They can be found in the cerebellar cortex. Still remember everything? No? Well, there are different ways to classify neurons. First off, they can be classified by their neurite count into unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar cells. Of course, there's also pseudo-unipolar. When studying the axon length, we can differentiate between Golgi-Type 1 and Golgi-Type 2 neurons. Looking at their shape, we can recognize pyramidically shaped and star-shaped cells, which might or might not have spines. There are various types of connections: sensory, motor, and interneuron. And finally, there's the classification by neurotransmitter into cholinergic, GABAergic, and glutamatergic neurons. Easy as pie, right? If not, then you can simply go back to the beginning and re-watch the video. If you did catch it all the first time, then you can also start watching some of our other totally amazing videos on neurobiology.